Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Stibberts. I'm joined here with Hank Preston, and we're going to be talking about renewing Cisco certifications. I'm an instructor here at Sunset Learning Institute. I teach a little bit of everything, route switch, security, Wi-Fi. Hank is actually a principal engineer over at Learning at Cisco. Hank, do you want to do a little intro about yourself?
Yeah, so I am a principal engineer here in learning and certifications over in Cisco. I have been earning and renewing and recertifying Cisco certifications for about, oh man, I bet 15 years. About 18 years ago, I earned a Cisco certification and then didn't renew it or recertify. So I'm fully aware of the joy of re-earning a certification you once had, and it is so much easier to just maintain them than having to go redo them again. So I am happy to be here with Andrew and the Sunset team to help you all understand about what you can do to maintain your Cisco certifications.
Absolutely. Also in the same boat with certs expiring. I actually, knock on wood, I have not had one expire yet, but for maintaining mine as an instructor, I must hold the certs to teach the certs.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, keeping half a dozen, actually, yeah, over half a dozen individual certs, various technology areas, also multiple vendors, keeping all of those up to date. I could spend all year just taking exams again, or I could use renewal options. So I'm going to be sharing my screen out, and we'll put a couple of links in the meeting chat for the websites we're going to. But this is just a very hands-on presentation. If you want to follow along via the screen share, browse to the websites yourself. Let's talk about what your options are for renewal. So the first website we're looking at, Cisco.com. Can't go wrong there, Cisco.com. I'll put this link in the meeting chat here out to everyone if you want to follow along. So for recertification, we are assuming you achieved the certification in the first place. You took the training, you went through the class, you took the exam, you passed. Excellent. You are now certified. So now the certs are good for 3 years, and so when we're starting to worry about them expiring, what are some of our options? So first, the classic option of taking exams to renew your existing certs, not the same exam, but taking exams of the same or a higher level, that still exists. So if you are starting your Cisco journey, you're continuing your Cisco journey, you say, I just got my CCNA, now I'm going to do a specialist, I'm going to do that specialist, now I'm going to go for my CCIE. The act of continuing to take exams, that by itself, and taking and passing exams, can renew your existing certs. So you can take a look there at, like, for the CCT, pretty much taking any exam. For the technician level cert, any exam will apply there. You can't actually use continuing education credits for that one. But for most of us, CCNA, any specialist, any professional certs, to renew that, you can go pass an associate exam, pass professional, technology core, and so on. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to focus a little bit on continuing education, but the act of passing the same level or a higher level will renew your existing certs. That still exists. Okay. So the second site I wanted to show off focuses more on continuing education, because you see here on the right, that's another option where it says, all right, you can combine an exam and continuing it, where for the associate or the specialist level, notice where it just says earn 30 credits, earn 40 credits. Some, not all, some of the training courses are 30 or 40 credit courses. So the act of taking the training, that's enough credits. That renews your certs. You don't have to take an exam. But the moment we start hitting professional and CCIE level certs, that's where we hit an 80 credit or 120 credit threshold needed to recertify. So there we have the option of doing 40 credits and an exam, or 40 credits and 2 exams, or 80 credits and 1 exam. So you can do a combo of credits and exam. So based on what cert you've got. We're going to have an open Q&A at the end, by the way. If anybody has a particular certification, you say, hey, I've got CCNP Collaboration or CCNP Data Center. What could I do? If you want to ask about different courses, credits, let us know what your situation is. That's what we're here for. So the second site I want to show to, and I'll put this link in the meeting chat as well, is the continuing education side. So the act of taking training. So this all changed back in 2020. Now, any Cisco cert, we can renew, except for technician, we can renew with the act of taking training. And I want to stress here, it's not credits per certification. If you have multiple certs, you don't have to get continuing education credits per cert you want to renew. It's a general bucket or a general threshold. So like I've got CCNP Enterprise and CCNP Security. I don't need 160 credits to renew those. If I get 80 credits, everything at the professional level and below would renew for another 3 years. Again, we'd still have a combo of credits and exam if you wanted to. All right, so those are your two info sites for just recertification in general and continuing education. How many points do we need? Now, this is the one, actually, I'll type this in the meeting chat. The ce.cisco.com. So if you want to browse to that site, follow along on your side. Great little website here, a great big website, because you log in, say, yep, there's Andrew Stibberts, and right up front it tells you, here's your active certs, here's their certification level, and when they're going to expire. And so that tells you when should you start to get worried. You know, how early should you start prepping for renewing your certs? And so, okay, I've got my enterprise security. I've got a couple other certs for the different courses I teach. Cool. So first big point here, how many credits are the different courses worth? Because I mentioned not all courses are worth 30 or 40 credits. So on this site, under continuing ed program, if you want to hit that item catalog, you can plug in particular courses. You can plug in the course acronym if you want to search by acronym. But I just want to use the general search here to highlight some courses are worth 64 credits, some are worth 56, some are worth 18. By the way, this is not worth 64 credits just because it's in Japanese. That doesn't make it more difficult. EN Core is a 64 credit course in English as well. I teach that one. But so other courses, 30 credits, 32, 24. So I'm stressing this because if you take training for the purpose of getting the continuing education credits, make sure you take training that's worth enough. I've had two students who they took training, they thought, oh, it's a 5-day class, it must be worth 40 credits. It was only a 32 or a 30 credit course. And therefore they didn't hit their threshold. They needed to go do more continuing education on top of that. So just double check that. If that's your goal, take training that teaches you, that works towards your goals, but also double check the points, the credits that it's worth. All right, so then last part I want to emphasize here, how do we actually get continuing education credits? It's not just the end of week survey. All right, I've had a couple students, they come through training, we do the end of week survey, and then their certs expired because they didn't actually get the credits. Yes, actually happened to 2 of them. So top of the page, we're going to go under the submit items and we'll plug in some course info. So for example, let's say SCORE, the security core course, and then you'll select however you attended that training. So it could be via Cisco U, which that's another new option where Cisco U, they're new, we had a whole webinar on that training platform a couple weeks ago. The act of going through the Cisco U learning paths, it doesn't have to be instructor-led training. That also qualifies. Could be Cisco direct delivery, or if you come take training from me, it could be instructor-led training. And so let's just use that one as an example. So I'll select my provider. So I'll run through all these different Cisco training partners, and we'll say Sunset Learning, and I'll plug in the dates of the training. Let's say 7 to 11, just throwing it out there. I'll click the terms and conditions and hit submit. Now, I'm not going to hit submit here because I didn't actually take the course on that date, but that's what you would do. At the end of your training week, plug in your information. That will start the verification process. It does take several days to complete, and at that point, the points are now on your account. You can go back to your dashboard, and we can see, like, I actually did some continuing education. I took the EN core course, which was kind of fun. I took a course that I teach. It was kind of fun. So those credits showed up, and that's why you can see all of my certs are now going to expire on the same day because they all renewed at the same time. That plus an exam put me over the continuing the points necessary to renew all of my certs. Okay, so That's really it. It's not more complicated. Continuing to take exams, just don't stop making progress. That can keep your current certs up to date. And a combo of the act of taking training as well as passing exams and just taking training. All of that can be used to maintain your existing certifications. And I like to emphasize that because sometimes life happens and taking an exam gets put off and then it gets put off and then the data center burns down or something happens and it gets time passes. And so the fact that you took the training, you keep progressing, that can help keep your certs up to date. Hank, anything you want to throw in there for now?
Nope. I've been trying to keep up with the questions that are coming in on chat, and so you're doing great. Keep going.
Cool.
Yeah.
I see a couple webinar chat, a couple questions in there. I see a question. Do you have to have a certification to access the ce.cisco.com website? Yes. Currently, it kind of makes sense. Continuing education only really matters if you're renewing an existing cert. So that's something that Cisco does look for when an account is trying to log in. You don't need continuing education if you don't already have certs. So you would focus more on getting the cert in the first place, going to take the exam. Right.
So there is so Dane's had a couple of questions. We've been going back and forth about when CE credits are applied for recertification. In general, they're automatically applied once you've earned enough, but he's pointed out that he's got lots of credits, but his certifications don't expire for a certain number, like over a year. I'll see if I can get the answer in the background. There may be a trigger point, like we won't recertify you, right? If you like, there may be a point where you have to have your certification within like a year of expiration before it'll go, rather than expiring in 2 years. I'll check with one of the CE managers on that. Because yeah, Dane, if you've got that many credits, I would have expected them to apply. But if you're still over a year and a half before your certification expires, there may be a hold time, right? We don't want to recertify you like every month just because you've earned enough CE credits. So let me see if I can get to the bottom of that one.
Cool. One I just answered in the chat, I'm just going to answer out loud for everyone's benefit as well. The question was, how much time do you have to use the credits? To get the credits, how much time do you have to get them? You have up to a year from your training. So if you've taken some training the last couple months and you didn't know this was available to you, go plug in the submission. Say, hey, I took this course. Here's my provider. Here's the dates. And then they can start applying that to your account. So yeah, actually, this is kind of a fun one. So let me share. I'm still sharing my screen here. So when I did my Encore, when are they applied? That's the question I'm answering here. When are the credits applied? When I took this course, I put in my application for the credits. I got my 64. I actually never hit this apply button. I'm actually still not sure what that apply button does. It automatically applies. I saw all my certs update for another 3 years. So if they're showing up here, and yeah, Hank is awesome for checking that out. If they're showing up on that list, if they're under this My Items page and your certs haven't renewed yet, that's a background investigation. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that apply button might be a remnant. There, in previous versions of the tool, you had to apply them to your certifications to use them. Now we don't. What we would have is people would forget to apply them. They've earned them, but they forget to hit the apply button, and so they would get expired. And we would certainly fix that and go through. So that's why now they're automatically applied as they go through. So it may be a case where that's just a button that's left over from back in the day when you actually had to apply them.
Gotcha. I see the question about the staggered expiration dates. I previously had staggered expiration dates. You can see mine are all aligned now. When continuing education applies, everything, whatever points you've acquired. So if you got 200, that's enough for every cert. Everything gets a new 3-year extension at that point. They will all align to the same date. So they will no longer be staggered at that point. So Alex, I see your message there. Not authorized to access the page because you don't have a Cisco account, but you do have CCNP Collaboration, and you only have one Cisco. That's my usual question. dealing with military, government, any kind of multi-account situation. Usually that's like, oh, I have my certs on one account, but I'm trying to log in with another. But if it's one account, um, that's an interesting one. Let me pull up, actually, let me stop sharing my screen here for a second. Let me, let me double check, because there's another website for tracking your Cisco certs. Right. So it's the Certs site. I'm sorry, go ahead, Hank.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get an answer on the other one. So to Andrew's point about multiple accounts, it's actually something I run into. So I started earning Cisco certifications before I worked for Cisco. And so I have a Cisco CCO account that's my personal account from before Cisco. And then I have another Cisco account as my Cisco employee account. And I have to keep track of which one I'm logging into the CE portals and all the certification portals, because my certifications are attached to, in my case, my personal account, because that's where I started earning them. And so that is definitely one that can often become confusing. If you do find yourself where you have multiple accounts and profiles, we do have the ability to merge those together in the back end from a certification perspective. And you can just open a ticket with us, with learning and certifications on the certification tracking system. And we can get that helped and taken care of for you. So
the other site, let me post a link in the meeting chat for everyone. The other site you can check out that's not the ce.cisco.com, ce.cisco.com, is the Cert Metrics site. With Cert Metrics, that's a little older site for keeping track of certs and when you took exams and so on. And so that's another one you can take a look at. What are your current active certs and when do they expire? And so because that's a different site, just in case your browser is something with the cookies, it's auto-filling some account. Okay. Okay. So you logged in, you can see all your certs there. Okay. I would try incognito mode, try a different browser, like double check it's not auto-filling with some other account. If that still doesn't work, then you might need to open a ticket to have them take a look at the back end, make sure there's no hole, there's no association where it says, oh, you've no active account, no active certs for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
One question that we got was if I had to recommend a course for 30 credits, which one would I recommend? Let me bring up the catalog here, make sure it's actually worth 30 credits before I recommend it. The other browser, says other browser work, excellent. Leah, CCNA is worth 30. CCNA is worth 30. I'm assuming if you've already got a Cisco cert, you probably have CCNA, maybe a specialist. I'm just going to be honest. CCNA is not a course that comes to mind as something that's fun to take just for continuing education, right? Let's say I want continuing education credits just to maintain what, but I don't like have anything particular in mind. I don't have a particular technology or, I need to learn firewall tomorrow. DNAC, activation insurance, nice. The one I was going to recommend was, here, I can share my screen now. CBR Ops. So CBR Ops is the cybersecurity fundamentals. And all it requires is that you understand what is TCP, what is UDP, the basics of networking, CCNA fundamentals. If you've got that, it's the cybersecurity mentality, not just how to deploy a firewall, but a little more of the attack and defense. For me, that is a fun course to teach because it's not just, as terrible as this is to say, not just normal route switch, Wi-Fi networking. It's more dynamic. It's a little more interesting when you think about you're actively protecting the network, investigating an intrusion attempt or a successful intrusion, and then you play the role of the attacker a little bit, simulating those attacks. We use the same tools that attackers use. We just put on a different hat, and we call it, the blue team. We call it the white hat side. So that's a 30 credit course that I think if you got some Cisco learning credits that are going to expire, say I just need some credits. That's a fun one to take.
Yeah, those cyber classes are really quite interesting, and they're becoming really quite popular. I was talking with some new engineers at a university recently, and about half the room seem to be really interested in the kind of the cyber ops, that side of the engineering. I'm still a core network engineer at heart, but yeah, I can respect the kind of the fun of looking at securing and tracking down and seeing what's out there.
Nice. Emmanuel says, I have my CCNA, however, I'd like to move from CCNP. Any advice? They have version 1.0, 1.1. So 1.0, 1.1, what? So you've got an active CCNA. So which CCNP are you interested in? The CCNP Enterprise, CCNP Security, Data Center, etc.? EN Core. Okay. So EN Core is the Enterprise Core course, and NRC is your Enterprise Advanced Routing and Services Implementation course. So EN Core is a core, C-O-R-E, core course. Everyone takes the core exam. Everyone takes the same core per technology track. That way we all have the same baseline in that technology track. And RC is a specialist course where we focus on OSPF, BGP, eGRIP, etc. We go more in depth on those routing protocols, security options. So to get your CCNP, you take the core exam, you pass the core exam, and you take a specialist. It doesn't have to be an RC. It could be the Enterprise Wireless Design or Enterprise Wireless Implementation course. I think there's an SD-WAN one in the Enterprise as well. So whatever specialization course you want to take, you pass one specialist course in that track. And when you pass both the core and the specialist, you automatically get the CCNP Enterprise or Security, whatever track you're in. One core, one specialist. Doesn't matter what order you do it in. So if it says 1.1, 1.0, 1.1, whatever version is latest and greatest, that's the course you're going to take. That's the one you're going to take. Any book or training online? Yeah, well, if you're more of a self-study, we have the Cisco Learning Press. You want to come in class, take it with me or another instructor. You can sign up straight through Sunset Learning, or whoever your learning partner is. They get mad if I say go straight to Sunset Learning. So however you normally sign up for training, yeah, whatever you normally go through. Yep, whatever the highest number is, usually latest and greatest. The Sunset Learning website, sure, you can find that somewhere. I'm sure I've been to my company's website at least once before.
I think it was posted. Someone posted that already. Yeah, it's in there. Awesome. There was a question too from an Alex about an example of a path to get the CCNP Collaboration recertification. The core exam is already tested. I would say if you've taken the core and you're trying to earn the collaboration for the first time, you have to take one of the specialist exams, the concentration exams, as Andrew was mentioning for the other side. So you can look at, and we can probably bring it up here in a second, but if you look at the list of concentration exams underneath the CCNP Collaboration, you'll see there's a whole suite of potentials that you can take, and any one of them would qualify you for the CCNP Collaboration. I'm always a big fan of automation, so there's an automation exam that ties in. The bonus with those automation exams is they're also qualified towards a DevNet professional. And so you can go down and take the DevNet core and then earn your CCNP Collaboration plus the DevNet professional if you were to have done that. So
absolutely. So you got CL core there as your core, that's your step one. And then you got these four options here. Yeah, there's the automation, CL Auto. There's control and mobility, collaboration and edge, collaboration applications. So I always recommend to students, what do you do on a day-to-day basis? Like, is there, if you're just trying to get the cert, which of these courses covers a technology area that you are already generally familiar with? Because then that'll help you with the exam because you already have some of that knowledge. But then you could also say, if it doesn't matter, where do I want to grow? What am I about to deploy? What am I interested in? Take the concentration or take specialist, whatever, concentration. Take the concentration exam that works for you. But yeah, any of these, take one, pass it, and then you're good to go. So if you're saying if you get your continuing education credits now, and then the course updates, let's say go from version 1.0 to version 2.0, will you be able to maintain the new version using continuing education credits? As long as the new version of the cert is the previous version gets grandfathered into it. For example, when back in 2020, we had the swap from CCNP route switch into CCNP enterprise. And so anybody who previously had CCNP routing and switching was automatically given CCNP enterprise. and the various core and concentrations were automatically granted based on the previous certs that you had. So if at that point you say, oh, now I've got CCNP Enterprise, now that's on my account, can I maintain that CCNP Enterprise, the new version, just moving forward, even though I didn't take that version of the course, that version of the exams, even though it got turned into the new version, can I maintain that? Yes. As long as that continues to exist, as long as that gets grandfathered in, you keep earning continuing education, it stays active on your account. Where that's not true is if the cert doesn't exist anymore. So for example, I used to have the old CCNA wireless. CCNA wireless doesn't exist anymore. As a certification, it doesn't exist. So if I go look on some old websites, I can still find a badge or somewhere, but officially that cert doesn't exist. So it can't be maintained. So that eventually fell off my account. So if it gets grandfathered to the new version, if it's a direct tie-in, yes, continuing education can keep maintaining the certs in the new version. But if it's not, if the cert no longer exists, you can't maintain it. All right.
And another question came through. If you tested with the core exam to get recertified last time, to get recertified again, do I need to test with the core exam or just a technology exam? So you want to cover that one, Andrew?
Sure. So let me go back to the page we had earlier about which exams we can take to renew. So we have our core versus professional, the concentration exams. So let's say we got core and concentration done. We are CCNP certified. Well, to renew specialist or professional, they tell you can pass one professional concentration or one technology core. To renew professional, you do a core or two concentration, but it doesn't say in there which ones. So if you took the EN core exam and then you took the EN core exam again, yeah, it'd be kind of interesting. Like, you might better spend your time gaining new knowledge. But yeah, if you wanted to take the exam again after a year, is that still true, Hank? Is it still, if you pass the exam, you still have to wait a year before you can do it again? That was I have to double check on that one. If you don't pass, you have to wait a week before you can attempt it again. But if you pass, it used to be a year. I have to double check on that one.
Yeah, I'd have to look. I'll see if I can find it quick, but I don't remember what the holdback is.
But yeah, it's one exam. There doesn't say which one. So if you wanted to take the same exam again a year later, for some reason, yes, you could do that.
So once passed, a candidate must wait a minimum of 180 days before taking the same exam with the exact same number. So 6 months.
There you go. So yes, you could.
I do appreciate too. So before the most recent changes to the program, associate, specialist, and professional certifications were good for 3 years, while expert certifications were good for only 2 years. And now they're all lined up, so they can all be on the same pattern, because that was always struggled sometimes. As an expert and having both, it'd be like, oh, I've got 2.5 years, and then all of a sudden you get the email as it comes in, oh, your expert certification is about to expire and you have to renew. So I do appreciate that we've moved to kind of synchronize the timing for the recertification, make everything consistent across the board. So
absolutely. We'll leave the poll up for another minute or so. While that's going, I got another question here. I've got about a year. They were looking at the poll, I guess. I got about a year before my cert expires. Is that too early? No. You can start earning your continuing education, start planning. Again, it could be a combo of exams and continuing education. Start planning that the moment you get your certs, because life happens. Projects go over, family, life happens. And there is usually some kind of delay. I have met very few folks where their timetable for training went according to plan. So just plan ahead, just plan for extra, just in case. I hope it works out. I hope you don't have things go wrong, but just in case. It's never too early to start earning continuing education and maintain your certs. I like to say in class, if you aim for taking a class per year, and double check how many points it's worth, but if you aim for a class per year, that should be good to maintain almost any Cisco cert, except for expert, we need 120 credits. Need more at that point, but for anything below that, a class per year is a good goal. All right, so we'll close out the poll here. Well, we'll give it 20 more. I'll give it a solid 3 minutes. Give it 20 more seconds. Check the chat.
So there was a question that just came in chat about the RevUp classes offered by Cisco. So this is a new program that Learning Certifications has started to release that are out there to help learners and certified individuals recertify. And so we go through different rounds. If for those that may not have heard of these are the RevUp to recertify, and they're driven through Cisco U. And so in each round, certain classes become open and available through Cisco U for free, so that you can go in and take that digital course, go through and complete it, and earn continuing education credits. Currently, there's a Thousand Eyes course that's available on Cisco U that has been opened up as part of the RevUps program. You can earn CE credits for those, but each one of the rounds related to RevUp are time bound. I think they're generally time bound to about between 30 and 45 days, and we're tuning with some of the timelines that are there. The current one, RevUp round, it ends at the end of August, but stay tuned for additional RevUp rounds to be announced. And that's a way to get some of your CE credits necessary for recertifying, or depending on how many you may already have in your pool, it could get you over the hump to recertify those. We do have a community in the Learning Network where you can sign up for notifications. So as new rounds for RevUp are announced, you'll get an email notification so that you can jump on those as soon as they're possible. And so you can complete those courses, complete that class before the round is over. So I'll find that link and I'll put it in chat for you.
I'm just answering Dane's question here about converting from CCNP route switch to enterprise, unlocking the ability to go for the CCIE. So one of the changes is there's no more stacking those certifications. You don't have to maintain CCNA to get CCNP. If you wanted to go no certs straight to CCIE, it'd be interesting, but you could. You can go straight there if you wanted to. Also, what just briefly on the side, what he was mentioning about Thousand Eyes, that's another really cool course. I know very technical terminology. Insight into ISPs, insight to how is the internet performing, whereas previously, like, we've had to set up our own tests, and then, are our tests getting blocked by the ISPs? Like, it's been kind of a back and forth about, it's a black hole out on the WAN. So Thousand Eyes is really cool in order to see what's happening outside of your network and how that's affecting you. So check that one out too. Do you need an active EN core? No, I don't believe that's a requirement anymore. Do you need an active EN core? Or for that one.
I think so you have to take the lab exam, you have to have taken, like, there used to be a dedicated written for a CCIE. Now it's the core exam for the technology. So for the enterprise, CCIE enterprise, you have the written version is the technology core EN core. And you do have to have taken and passed the core exam for your CCIE. I think I'll look the date up in a minute to confirm, but within a certain period of time before you take the lab. So there's like an eligibility to sit the lab based on how long ago you passed the core exam. Let me see if I can find that real quick, because it is a specific time.
Gotcha.
Let's go CCIE.
Okay, so it doesn't require any other certs. Excuse me, but they don't want anyone just going straight to the lab portion if you haven't passed the written yet.
Right. It's the qualification exam. And so it's like the old written, but we don't have a dedicated written for the CCIEs anymore. The DevNet Expert is the same way. The DevNet Expert qualification is the Dev Core exam. The only dedicated written for an expert level exam that still exists is the CCDE written. And so to take the CCDE practical exam, you do have to take the qualification, which is the CCDE written exam. It's the only expert level cert. And if you look at that recertification chart you had up, Andrew, you'll notice it's the only single exam you can take to recertify an expert exam, is because it's considered a CCIE exam.
Nice. One last question. Can I use just continuing education credits, just CE, to renew a CCNP certification? Yes. We'll go back to the say here about the continuing education policy. So if you've got your professional cert, enterprise, security, data center, collaboration, et cetera, whatever, you can only use continuing education. That's one option, and that is 80 credits to renew that. 40 for the specialist, 80 for the professional. So let me show you on mine as an example. So if I go to my, again, ce.cisco.com, under my dashboard, I've got my CCNP Enterprise, CCNP Security. If I go to page 2 here, here we go. Yeah, so Enterprise Core is a specialist level cert. And then Enterprise Advanced Infrastructure, wireless design, implementation, those are all specialist certs. And so those, as a specialist takes 40 credits to renew. And then for the full professional, that took 80 credits. So again, I earned 64 credits because I took the one course. I also did an exam, which doesn't show up here. So I did an exam plus credits together. That put me over the threshold. But yes, if you wanted to, you could do just credits and then it would renew all your certs. Absolutely.
All right, so I think I've got the answer. So the timelines for the qualification before the lab exam changed a little bit with some of the structures, but if I'm reading this right now, it's 3 years. And so you take the EN core exam. That exam is valid. That passing score on that exam is valid for 3 years, and so it holds your ability to sit the lab for 3 years. And so if you took the EN core 5 years ago and now you're ready to go for the lab, right? You took the core too long ago. You would have to retake that within a 3-year block before sitting the lab.
Which good kind of makes sense. Yeah, that's a great question. It kind of makes sense as well because Cisco training is usually on about a 3-year life cycle for updates. So if it's been 3 years, there's usually new topics. So what's in the exam might be a little different than what you took 5 years ago. So want to stay up to date there.
Yeah. I always like these webinars because the questions are great and I have to go dig up answers that I didn't know before, and then I know the answers.
Yeah. So have anything been mentioned for the DevNet Associate? Not to my knowledge. Hank, you got that one? Any changes to DevNet Associate?
So we now have the roadmap for updates and changes to all of the certifications that are there. I think the DevNet certifications are in process now. Let me see if I can find it, what the timelines for announcements are. Cisco. If you do like a Cisco certification roadmap search in your favorite browser, it will give you the deadlines and the timelines for it. So let me see where DevNet fits into it. I know I was involved with some of the work for it. I just don't know where it is in the lines. And so it looks like DevNet, we announce, so in August to October, so we will be announcing any blueprint changes to the DevNet Associate, and then those changes will be published sometime between November and January next year, which means if we've announced them already, they should be on, any changes to the blueprint would have been published on Learning Network. Let me look at and see topics, see if anything is up. Because what we do is we publish release notes and they get attached to the exam topics. And it's part of our, yeah. So if you go to like the DevNet Associate Exam topics, there's a banner on the page that says DevNet Exam Updates as part of our roadmap. The last date to test for the current exam is January 21st. The new exam is there. If you click on the Learn More button, it should, yeah, we've got release notes that you can go through and read. And so there's a release notes for all the DevNet exam that shows any changes to the exam topics. A lot of the changes to the blueprints are Cisco's well known for often kind of changing names to products and shifting things around. So sometimes those are some of the changes that hit exam topics as we just update from, for example, DNA Center to Catalyst Center as some of the names changes and the pieces that are there. So a lot of the exam topic changes relate to those pieces. But that's any of the adjustments, any that we make will be limited to less than 20% of the blueprint itself. And we publish well in advance any changes that'll happen. And that's all published on the release notes on that roadmap page.
And I always tell folks in class, study the book, because that's what the exam's for. Whatever change, whatever new name is out in the world, That's what's out in the world. But for the exam purposes, study the book, study the student guide that you got with class. That's what we're pulling the exams from. Excellent. I got a question here. Can I attend with free credits? I'm assuming we mean CLC, like the Cisco Learning credits. So can I get continuing education credits? Can I get CE credits from training where we used CLCs to purchase those? Absolutely. It doesn't matter if it was a check, if it, I assume folks still take checks, but if it was a check, a credit card, CLCs, however the training was paid for, that's great. The fact that you attended the training. So show up all week, do the labs, go through the lecture, take the training, however it gets paid for, yes, that qualifies for the continuing education credits. Awesome. Let me double check here. Any other questions? I think we've got most of them answered. If we missed your question, throw it up in the chat, throw it up in the Q&A again, just in case we missed it. But I think we got them all. And as always, please feel free to reach out. Doesn't have if you have questions later. Please feel free to reach out about continuing education, what courses are available, which courses cover which topics. We would love to answer those questions. About once a quarter, I'll have somebody show up in class where after the first 2 to 3 hours, they go, "Hey, Andrew, I don't think I'm in the right class," because they read something online, but it didn't about what the course outline was. But when they got into class, they realized, oh, this is not actually what I thought it was. So if you have questions about, which courses actually cover which topics, so that way you don't accidentally take the wrong class, please feel free to reach out. We would love to have that conversation with you beforehand.
So, yes, so there was back to some of the CCIE eligibility ones. I think I've got this. So the question was, so you've taken the CCNP core or the enterprise core, which makes you eligible for the lab, but maybe it's been more than 3 years, but you've renewed your CCNP enterprise. And so does the renewal still qualify you for the lab? And the answer is no. The requirement to take the lab exam is that you've taken and passed the enterprise core within the last 3 years. And so just holding an active CCNP enterprise isn't the same as having passed the enterprise core in the last 3 years. So hopefully that makes sense.
I'm answering that Q&A question there. I'm going to answer out loud as I'm typing, which is always fun. I've got 56 credits. I need 24 credits to renew, to recertify, because it's the professional level. Is there a way to acquire the 24 credits? So you have two options. You can take a course that is worth at least 24 credits, and you can go for 30 credits, go for 64, at least 24. Going over is totally fine. But the other option is you can also pass a core or concentration exam. Because again, it's a combo of credits and exam taking that can put you over that threshold. So I'll put the link in the meeting chat again. So I'm going to put 3 links all together, one big burst. So for ease of copying and pasting.
All the links.
I'm a big fan of links. I have notepads of links for all the different courses I teach. It's so much fun.
Of course, yeah.
Very, very high-tech notepad. All right, so here's your 3 links. So recertification in general. So just big idea, CE, continuing education versus taking exams. The continuing education requirements, again, going a little more in depth, which types of exams apply for which certification levels you currently have. And then that last one, the continuing education site, where we actually put in the training, we actually put in the application for the credits. Another question: if I buy training, let me answer it live here. If I buy training from Cisco Network Learning Store, so you're doing the self-study, if you're going through Cisco, the digital learning library, or the new Cisco U tool, yes, that qualifies. Let me go back to the site there. Share my screen out one more time. So Zoom has all their wonderful little pop-up menus. So if I go here to submit items and I say, all right, I took the CCNA, in Japanese, just for fun. And well, actually, no, that's only instructor-led training. Never mind. Let's say CCNA 2.0. So you can see here, there's the Cisco U learning path. There's the Cisco Direct Delivery. So yeah, if I go into Cisco U right now and I go through the course, what the self-study tools will look at, they break it up by chapter, they break it up by section and lab. So when you finish the section, you answer the self-study questions, you do the labs, and the tool tracks your progress through the content. When you have 100%, you have finished the course, then you can put the application in here, and it checks to Cisco U to check, okay, they say they took CCNA, did they actually finish that course, or are they still at like 95%? And then you can get the continuing education there. All right, so let me share my screen one more time. By the way, we did a whole webinar on Cisco U, and so that should be up on our website. You should be able to review that, or I don't know if we posted that on YouTube. I'll have to check, but check that out later. We did a little webinar on that. So here is Cisco U, your self-study, self-training tool here. And so let's say I went into the Network Automation Essentials, Dev NAE. And on the right here, let me modify my Zoom there. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so that Dev NAE course is actually one that is available at the free tier of Cisco U as well. So if anybody hasn't got a Cisco U account, you're like, it's not for me. It's this. There are lots of material available at the free tier account. So please go over to u.cisco.com, register for a free account, and check out training like this Network Automation Essentials. And you'll notice in there, it is good for some CE credits.
Right there. Yep. You could make fresh account tomorrow. I don't make a fresh account if you already have a Cisco account, but totally free. Company doesn't even have to pay for anything. You could just start training this, doing this one tomorrow. And once you finish, it's worth 16 credits. So in the learning path, we break it up by sections. And so I would go in here, go to my introduction to network automation section. I would go through the content. You can see the bubble is starting to fill up there. And once I've gone through all of these pieces, I've finished that section. And once I've done that, for the entire learning path, I have taken that course. And that includes, there's pre and post assessments, so there's questions there. I don't know if this one has labs. I think
it does.
It does? Okay, I have to go double check those. And so the labs, I think these open into CML, the Cisco Modeling Labs, which I need to do a whole webinar on that. That is an awesome tool that not enough folks know about.
I would agree.
I'm just going to briefly say, for everybody listening here, just write that down. Go Google it later. CML, Cisco Modeling Labs, check it out. It is awesome.
It's fantastic. We just released a new version. 2.6 was released recently and had some really cool enhancements on it. And so certainly check it out. And if you do a webinar on that, and you want someone to sit in your back corner again, let me know. I'd love to go through and help folks on that one. Any of the Cisco U, that first page when you looked at the one where it showed the CE credits, one of those other icons indicates labs, like how many labs and the span. So you can get an idea kind of just looking at the front page of a course, any of the learning paths, what they have included.
Gotcha. So I'll just slightly off topic here. In Cisco U, so I'm logged in, and I currently, they're working to give instructors unlimited access. Currently, I have just free tier access. Under Explore, you can look at all the content. What you can see up front is everything. You're not limited based on your tier, so you can see, hey, is the course I'm interested in, is it in Cisco U in the first place? And so we see like, hey, ENAUI, our automation, 18 labs, 24 credits, CCNA, 32 labs, 30 credits. Don't worry, the labs, some of those labs are like only 15 minutes apiece. So we can filter it by how many credits, or is it worth credits overall? Filter it by technology area. Also, there is AWS and Azure training in and through Cisco U. So check that out. All right.
It's one of the things.
I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the things we've tried to do with Cisco U is to provide access to partner training content that may not be specifically on Cisco technology, but it's part of the overall effort related to building networks and infrastructure and the services that are there. And so you will find in not necessarily in the free tier of the platform, But in some of the paid tiers, you get access to more than just kind of Cisco specific training on that side.
Awesome. All right, so we got time for a couple more questions, just in case anybody has any. I'm gonna mark these as read. I'm gonna mark these as done. I think I answered those questions in the Q&A. Open floor, anybody?
Going once, going twice.
Did anyone answer Stephen Bick's question about the other vendor certs?
Oh, no, I missed that one. So unfortunately, no. So to earn a CE credits, the training material or the course that you took or the exam for it does have to tie back to Cisco certifications. So our certification, our certification to issue certifications have to align to ANSI and ISO specifications. And so any of our courses that we list or any of the ways to earn CE credits are validated that they meet kind of the expectations for our certifications that are there. So you will only earn Cisco CE credits by taking Cisco CE training or Cisco CE exams through partners like Sunset. There are learning partners that we have kind of vetted and we know what the training is involved. That doesn't imply that training from other vendors isn't valid or good or useful. It's just it doesn't qualify as Cisco CE credits, though it might qualify for continuing education to earn recertification for those vendors' certifications on that side. So, all right, I'll tackle Dane's while we're waiting to see if Robert comes in. So the question was, when you get renewed with CE credits, do the 3 years get added to the remaining time left on the certs? We don't add an additional 3 years. What it is it gets pushed out from the date when the recertification happens. And so let's say you've got 30 days left in or let's say you've got a year left in your certification. You recertify with CE credits. You now have 3 years left. You don't have 4 years left. It's not like you've got a year plus 3. It's just the expiration date is from the date of the application of earning those CE credits and having them applied. Your certification new expiration date is 3 years later on that. So you can't do like you can't take as much fun as it might be. You can't take like 400 like CE credits worth, do like 5 recertifications for your exam and then be good for a decade, right? That's not how the program is set. It's supposed to be continuing education kind of through your career on that side over the time period. Hopefully it's the spirit of the program makes sense, even if I feel like sometimes I talk to my son and he's always looking for ways to work around rules, right? This is one of those where the point is continuing the education, not front loading education and then not having to take them again for the next decades.
Let's put it in a little perspective. All right, here's the instructor moment. Question for everybody. When did AWS come out? How many years ago?
Jesus, like forever ago, I think.
That long ago?
Well, I mean, in the span of technology, right?
Right. I mean, it was 2009. It'll vary, right? Some folks will say 2011, 2012, depending upon when was it organized as a company versus when did it really break onto the scene. So around a decade ago, maybe just a little bit more. That's only 10 years-ish, right? Whereas we've had networking since the 1980s, 1990s. Oh, we'll say 1990s to be safe. Charles Babbage doesn't count. So if we got into networking back with some frame relay, back with some serial lines, before fiber really came on the scene, if we just got our knowledge then and just maintained the certs, well, there's some new technology out there. It makes sense to stay up to date, keep going, like automation. The Cisco automation push in the last 4 to 5 years alone is groundbreaking. There was nothing about automation before that. And that's now, almost taken over. So yeah, we gotta keep learning. Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you all for attending. Hank, thank you for jumping in here. This was wonderful. And so as always, watch our social media, watch the emails. We'll have more webinars in the future. And again, doesn't have to be today. If you have any questions in the future about classes or which class to take, what's in a class, please feel free to reach out. All right. You all have a wonderful day.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Andrew.
If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.